Hi everyone, I want to share this with you because I really learned something today. And that is so obvious. We can see it happening, right? We can see the militarization of the police and what's going on, but it actually has some deeper roots. And one thing is true. The people running this world are lovers of death. You know, the whole satanic, Luciferian, um, demonic, devil worshiping Satanists, and those, those forces, the Prince of Power of the Air is also working through the scientists. So this is what's happening all over the world. They don't honor God. They want to be God. They want to um, tinker with God's creation and take over evolution itself and do better. But this is what I'm noticing about the war and mentality and the violence and everything. I learned something from reading this here. This is Truth About Guns. It's by Dan Zimmerman, Cops, MRAPs, and the Heartbreak of Police Operator Syndrome. I never knew what police operator syndrome was before. And actually, this article is not just by Dan Zimmerman because there's another writer on here, Chris Hernandez, who is a police officer in Texas. Okay, so have a look at this. This is the Salinas police force and their SWAT MRAP. And look how the police are dressed. They're dressed in camouflage. So are they pretending something? Do they want to be in war? Or are they planning to be in war? Because, you know, also there's a spiritual law. It's in the Bible. You know, they wanted rain. I forgot what this is. They wanted rain, and they had to go dig ditches before the rain would come. And so that's showing faith, expectation, and then the rain came. But nothing, rain wouldn't come until they dug the ditches. So this is sort of like you get mine-resistant armored vehicles, and then you're going to get mines because you need something to use these for. And, well, let me read this to you because it's very enlightening from a police officer's perspective. Okay, by Chris Hernandez. Let me make something clear. You're right to feel uncomfortable that cops have MRAPs and look like soldiers. I'm a 20-year cop, and even though I've received fairly extensive tactical training, even though I carried a carbine and a plate carrier in my trunk when I was on the street, even though I believe there are times we need to be warriors, I agree that too many officers think of themselves as operators. So maybe you guys know that term that is kind of infiltrating the police force. Okay, let me see. I can get this right. And one symptom of the dreaded police operator syndrome, look, dreaded police operator syndrome is the desire to rush to every "my neighbor's dog is pooping in my yard" call in an MRAP. So that's kind of what's happening, right? And wrong doors, dogs being shot, kids, people without, unarmed people are just, the cops are going crazy. Police operator syndrome is not new. Police operator syndrome. I first heard the word operator used by cops when I was a UN police officer in Kosovo 14 years ago. Officers in a tactical unit passed around a copy of Black Hawk Down, and within weeks they were all calling themselves operators. Isn't this incredible? So they don't even think of themselves. It's It's a brainwashing. And with that title came a different, hardened attitude. They weren't there to fight crime, they were operators, ready for war. This is scary. Okay. There's some other interesting stuff in here if I can get this thing to do what I want. Come on. All right. Oh, dang. Sometimes I make my videos more than once, you know, because they don't go my way. But I'm just going to say everything's going my way. Even mistakes are okay. All right. Unfortunately, police operator syndrome is probably here to stay. Okay, does this alarm you? So this is why the world is not going to become more peaceful. It's going to get worse, just like the Bible says. And to me, you know how Jesus dressed? He dressed like Arabs dress when they're dressed in their traditional Arab clothes. So if Islam takes over when Jesus comes back, he will fit right in. He's not going to fit in with the tanned suit that Obama wore. No. Okay, here. Unfortunately, police operator syndrome is probably here to stay. We can thank the war on drugs and panic over terrorism for that. Within police departments, it's often the subject of ridicule. Cops have always made fun of the guy who carries 6 magazines on his belt, 2 backup guns, and a combat knife on patrol. But the thing is, this is probably the older guys with the subject of ridicule. When the younger guys who are getting used to this, when they move up and new guys come in, it's going to be the generation of the operators. Okay, they really make fun of operators who show up on scenes with more gear than I carried in Afghanistan and who couldn't chase a suspect 50 feet with all that crap on. Among actual Special Forces units, only a small number of men have earned the title of operator. From what I hear, just about all, this is probably Selena's force, guys laugh at police officers who call themselves operators. I shake my head every time I see a cop dressed in modern army camouflage. We soldiers hate that camouflage because it doesn't work anywhere. So why are cops wearing it? Good question. So this is a cop questioning why cops are wearing camouflage. Why are they? And also, I have lots of pictures of people wearing camouflage because I read about 10 years ago when Iraq was first invaded by George Bush, the son, George W., they said there will be a trend when camouflage gets into the mainstream, you know, just pants, shirts, shoes, all that, it'll be permanent war. And now look, the police force is sometimes wearing camouflage. And even where I'm living, I've seen women's dresses, I've seen, you know, elite label clothes with camouflage. I see umbrellas, I see flip-flops. Everything is with camouflage. It's just totally accepted. All right. Here's something else that I think is kind of scary, creepy, and that is, and I cringe whenever I see a cop in public with a shamag or shmag, an Arab scarf around their neck. is this happening in Texas? This is where this writer lives and is a cop. They're wearing Arab scarves in Texas because they protect people in mainly Arab countries, but they're identified with Arabs now, from the sun and the sand, right? Well, now we have drought. Look, California is going to be all hot and sandy and dry and deserty again. That drought may last 35 years, some scientists said. So maybe shmogs are going to be acceptable. Anyway, it says here, there's almost no better way for a cop to scream, "I really want to look like a soldier," than by wearing a shmog. So they're looking forward to it. So maybe they're just letting all of these people in over the borders because they want to put to use the MRAPs, the guns, you know, all those hollow point bullets that they've been collecting, and they just, because these are lovers of death. They aren't lovers of peace. You know, Jesus Christ is not fashionable. Death and violence and camouflage and shmogs and MRAPs and kill people and see blood and cut off heads. This is fashionable these days. It's catching on. I imagine many street cops aren't too excited about MRAPs either. They're bulky, slow, impractical, and not likely to ever be needed. And based on what we see online and on TV, way too many cops seem to fall under a magical spell and think they have to dress and act like operators from Black Hawk Down when their police department gets an MRAP. So maybe MRAPs are not only unnecessary, they also exert a sort of Vulcan mind meld on some cops. Yeah, I think it's like an ego thing, it's a power thing, it's a bad thing. However, an MRAP is just like a gun in that it has no inherent goodness or evil. If it's used for evil, it creates evil, but if it's used correctly, it's a great tool, used correctly. An MRAP is not a tank, not even a little tiny one. As a former M1A1 Abrams crewman and as an Iraq and Afghanistan combat vet who spent a lot of time in MRAPs, I assure you, an MRAP is as much a tank as a motorized skateboard is a Harley. I cordially invite those who believe MRAPs are tanks to take one head-to-head against the nearest T-80. Okay, so they're not tanks. MRAPs are not tanks. If you mock those who make ridiculous, emotional, politically loaded statements like AR-15s are ghost guns that fire 30 magazine clips per half second, then don't make ridiculous, emotional, politically loaded statements like police don't need tanks when you're talking about MRAPs. Okay, they're not tanks. So we shall be clear about that. Okay, he goes on here talking about how they can be useful in certain situations, and make no mistake, I don't want to see operators in MRAP smashing through a front door to serve a no garage sale permit warrant. Well, that's kind of what it's coming to, isn't it? They want to they're just like biting at the bit. They're just itching to use this military equipment because they have been brainwashed thinking they're operators from Black Hawk Down in America. So, garage sales, lemonade stands, neighbor's dog problem, these are all going to bring out the monster in these brainwashed, militarized, some police wearing shmogs like this over here. I don't know. So he has a pledge here for police to say, put their hand over their badge. I'm not an operator. If I ever work for a phone company, I'll be an operator. But seems like there is a trend to be violent. Is this true? Okay, now let me show you the schmog. So, okay, here, here's a police officer in Santa Barbara. I'm just kidding. That would be horrible. But what I really want to show you is that people are thinking these are cool. You know, they wear the sunglasses and this, and it just makes them feel like a deadly fighter because it does something for their ego or something. So the one I want to show you is down here. So, okay. Arms list. See, we've got the skulls because that's what war, military, camouflage, MRAPs, all of this stuff goes together. And you know how skulls have invaded our society in fashion. It's all over bags, shoes, baby socks, clothes, ties, blankets, sweaters. It's there. We're in the end times death culture. The only way to have peace in your heart and your soul and your life is through Jesus Christ. And you may have to lose your life to save it. And if you try to save it, you might lose it. God bless everyone, and thank you for watching. And you can look up these things yourself. Here is the word right here. Schmog. Okay? S-H-E-M-A-G-H. All right, thank you for watching and listening. And may all of you be really blessed and help others wake up too. Okay, bye for now.